Welcome to the World Flying Disc Federation 2018 World Ultimate Club Championships from the Lebanon Sports Center in Ohio, just north of Cincinnati. Myself, Tom Stiles, alongside Becky Thompson for this mixed division pool game. Freakshow from Singapore against Crash from Canada. And I'm very lucky, I feel, to be joined by a Canadian with some local knowledge of the Crash side. Becky, tell us a little bit more about the team in black.
The team in black, I mean, you're going to have to watch out for a very disciplined system, Tom. They work their strategies very well. They've practiced them endlessly, and they'll be looking to execute nothing necessarily too flashy, just good, simple, executed offense throughout this game.
Well, the sun is shining down here on the fields. The breeze is light. Nothing too much to worry about for either of these teams. And we'll be bringing you all the details of the two teams. It's been a bit of a tight changeover. The previous match ran right up to the 100-minute, well, right up to the 2-hour mark. It was a huge game. And so these teams have not had any chance to get to the field. And frankly, myself and Rebecca have only just got into our commentary booths as well. So bear with us while we get ourselves sorted out and up to speed with everything that's going on out here. I was actually chatting just a minute ago before this game with Chrissy Hunter, one of the Freakshow players from Singapore. And she was telling us a really interesting story, which I think is something that we should look out for during this game, which was that in previous tournaments, Singaporean teams and Singapore national sides generally have got not great ratings for spirit. And that's, you know, there's a lot of reasons why that might be the case. We'll discuss them later on. But this is something that Chrissy in particular and the whole Singaporean scene have been trying to address so that they can improve those spirit ratings. And in their last game against Vanguard, Vanguard described them as the most spirited team that they'd played in a long time, and they got 4 out of 4 for communication. So this is a team that's really trying to address some of the issues that they may have with spirit and put that right, and it seems to be paying effect. Let's see how that affects the game. Certainly if we come to any foul calls, issues of judgment, I'd see the good spirit come through from the team in green. So Freakshow from Singapore in green and Crash from Canada in black.
And Singapore as well. Important to note that this team has worked really, really hard to get here to Worlds, as every team has, but this is a team that has struggled historically for field space as well. They've struggled in order to get funding and fundraise to be here as well. Speaking to one of their players before the game, Cash, a lot of them often work and then spend their money right away on Frisbee, and they have to go home so that they can earn more money to come here and play Ultimate as well. So this is a really big deal for them, Tom, to even be here on this world stage right now.
Yes, indeed. Well, it's not such a huge journey for your country people coming just crossing the border.
There were several of them who I believe drove to this tournament as well. So it's about an 8-hour drive from where they are. So we're not too far away from Canada here. So almost, you know, in their backyard, as one might say, just underneath Canada.
And the World Ultimate Club Championships, bringing together players from all around the world, and the atmosphere around the field so far has been really exciting. Lots of new friendships being formed, lots of happy smiles. The parade of flags at the opening ceremony, a real illustration of quite how broad this community of Ultimate players is. 36 nations represented, 128 teams. And in this mixed division, 48 of those teams coming together, the biggest of the 3 divisions. And some countries only represented in the mixed division as well.
Yeah, which is a very unique thing, Tom, for the mixed division as well, being able to bring those smaller countries together to field a team where they can't field them in the men's and women's divisions.
So quickly we get underway with red cop for Crash. Big fake on the backhand side. And then does throw the disc eventually. So Dupas. Count of 3 from the game advisor, giving us a little indication of what's going on the field. Our game advisors in yellow on the sidelines. No active calls. They're not observers. They're not referees. They are here to advise the players, clarify rules if necessary. Lazenby jumps high, then opens up the arm. Big, deep disc going towards the end zone, drifting towards that front corner. Pressure from the Freakshow defense. And it was drifting outside the side of the field anyway.
Yeah, I like that decision, Tom, from Lazenby there, but just a little bit too far over to the far side. Tried to sit it up a little bit in that crosswind, but I think that was always going out of bounds.
So Crash bringing 2 victories into this game, and Freakshow bringing 2 losses. We had looked at the pools before the tournament, and let's see what both of these teams can bring out on the big stage. Ben with the disc. The Singaporean players have asked that we use their first names to refer to them on the field. Cultural differences. Generally we go with last names, but Singaporean players have asked us to go with their first names, which we will happily oblige. Jonathan Yeo. Deep shot to the end zone, read perfectly. Fabian catches, slams the disc into the floor, and a great first point for Freakshow.
And what a great first shot there from Freakshow. I mean, incredible to see any team get that first opportunity on their defensive line to play offense, and they absolutely executed that perfectly. 2-3 passes to a wide open, streaking player to the end zone. Well read there. You just see the catch again on your screens. Freakshow now with a chance to get another break. We're 1 break up in the game, and it looks like they are going... Thought there was a timeout call there happening, Tom, but is the signal for 4 men happening on the field down there.
Excellent, and we've got Melissa Battis down on the sideline doing our stats for us. Our stats app lets us know about breaks and also keeps track of who's been doing the scores and assists, and also gives them some really interesting percentages about recovery rates. I've been using that throughout this week. Freakshow pulling into a slight headwind. The flags around the field are all blowing in different directions. That actually might be a downwind. Very difficult to tell which way the breeze. It's kind of swirling around here at the Lebanon Sports Complex. This huge tract of flat grassland. About 40 minutes north of Cincinnati. This comes in. And another quick turnover here. Freakshow doing some great work. Andy reading the disc well. He has the disc now. Johnsong flicks the wrist out to the far wing. Really aggressive. Good read of the disc there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing Freakshow start to bring a little bit of that natural talent they have, that instinct that they have for getting the disc into their hands as well.
Kind of violation or a... Not sure what the hand signal was. It was a foul. I think the defense weren't set in time, but it wasn't the right hand signal if that was what they were trying to say. Anyway, the disc stays with Jo So. And across to Johnsong. Round the back to Andy. Andy drops the disc, picks it up again. Uncontested. Stack in the center of the field, creating spaces on the 2 wings. Cut from the front of the stack, float around the side, little touch from the defense. The 11 shirt of Tom Flynn reaches out the fingertips and gets a touch to that, but a contest comes from Johnsong.
Yeah, and that's a tough one to tell from here, Tom. I think Flynn definitely got his fingers to the disc first, but important to remember with whiff-diff rules that any contact made that impedes the potential to catch the disc, whether it's before the contact with the disc happens or not is still a foul call. So it looks like it will be uncontested here just outside the end zone for Singapore.
Freakshow. 2 breaks to start the game. They've done it with an... Oh no, the disc. I thought that was a grab from our vantage point. It looked clean, but the disc pops out of the hand of Cash. I believe you were on the same flight as Cash.
I was. We sat beside each other, gave me lots of good intel on this team as well, and he told me to look out for his layouts.
Well, we did. Couldn't quite cling on that particular occasion. Finn. Back to Ramick. Across the other side of the field to Savage. Savage back to Zagreb. Down to Savage again. Savage flicks the rest into the open space, running down. Oh, what a great turn of speed from Tom Flynn. Almost got the D at one end of the field, and a little bit of a angry throw as he puts the disc back in the middle of the field. And they're one each. Crash avoiding the double break start.
Yeah, I think Flynn really wanted that layout D back as well, feeling like he may have got to it first. Earned the disc back, and what a great flow movement up the field from Crash. They really needed that offensive hold. You never want to go down 2-0 right at the start of the game, Tom. Not good for team morale. Good to get that right back, make this game 1-1.
Yeah, no mistakes. Flynn, the 31-year-old forensic engineer from Waterloo, Ontario, doing the work with the legs. Do you know what a forensic engineer does, Becky?
Well, in this case for Flynn, he investigates car accidents after they happen. So he tries to make sure that we understand what happened with those accidents and make sure that the right people are taken care of.
I wonder if that analytical approach comes back when they're looking through old videos of their games and training for the next tournament. Experienced player with Goose in the Open Division in 2014 and 15, and Thunder in the Mixed Division in 2016, and then transferring to his current team, Crash, for the 2017 and 18 seasons. We'll keep an eye out for Flynn throughout this game. But now it's Fabian for Freakshow, working up the sideline. Another great run-through block from the 43 shirt from Crash. Brad froze. And he has the disc again now. On the sideline. Center of the field. Looking for a reset. Floats it into space. Has to go to ground to get it, but he does so. Front of the stack cut. And a pick called.
Yeah, just a pick called there in the middle of the field. Brittany Edgett there, a little bit too open for comfort for the Singapore people there. Sometimes when somebody's that open, it's hard to imagine that a pick didn't occur on the field, although you often want to give the cutter some credit as well.
Bailey. Flick of the wrist to Rambo. Couldn't quite connect. The Rambo connection.
Yeah, the love connection not quite working out on that one there, Tom.
Amanda to Jeremy. The disc is on the floor. Freakshow have it again. And a deep shot's gone up. The deep cut has gone, but it's going to drift over the heads into the grass. No harm done from a Crash point of view. Freakshow are going to need to tidy up those deep shots if they're going to threaten in this game.
Yeah, and Freakshow definitely liking the look of Fabian, number 11 there, streaking deep. That's the second time we've seen him get distance and separation between his defender. Won't be surprised to see that multiple times. They're going to have to clean up those throws.
Froze with the disc again. Looking back, finds Rambo. Through the middle to Edgett. Oh, there's a big shot. The arms opened up. Oh, running beautifully onto it. Trevor King in acres of space. Not having to lay out, not having to accelerate, just catching it in stride. What a disc.
That was an incredible shot there from Jeremy Rambaud as well. Just knowing his receiver on that, knowing he could put it into space, the speed of King to track that down. He didn't let that one get away from him at all, did he, Tom?
Oh, he had a great read, but I think as a receiver, you're always very grateful when you turn over your shoulder and you see the disc and you think, oh, this is lovely. This is coming right to where I'm going to be in a second.
Exactly. Textbook perfection on that one. We're now seeing the Crash offense start to work out their kinks, maybe just a little bit of jitters on that very first point of the game, some miscommunications to cause a turnover. And now Singapore down again on offense. Starting to see some familiar faces down on the line. We're back on serve though here, Tom.
Yes, I think we were expecting this to be Crash coming out really strong. So going 2 breaks down at the start of the game, which they almost did, would have been a little bit of an upset. But you know, Singapore side have got some strong talent in there.
Absolutely. Singapore, a very quick team as well, and a very bonded team. They're definitely a family, and I think bringing that level of chemistry is absolutely a weapon for any team, especially here at a World Championships.
Fast first disc out to Cash. Cash back to Andy. Andy across the field to Joe. Oh, caught a little bit of air underneath that. Mistakes are going to be cleaned up quickly. Dan Ballison. Oh, and it's a great layout in the back of the end zone. Balzerson blasting that one deep. And who's on the end but Tom Flynn once more.
Yeah, and that's Dan Balzerson's absolute favorite thing to do. Get that run through D, and immediately Crash is always going to have somebody chasing that deep throw. Immediate quick transitions for this Crash team.
Flynn with the celebration. We'll be back with more from Cincinnati after this.
Catch it early. Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.
Grablik. This is a Grablik I'm going to go with. Welcome back to Cincinnati, the Lebanon Sports Complex in Ohio. The breeze coming across the field, the flags waving. The scene of worlds like worlds before and worlds to come. A real celebration of our wonderful sport of ultimate. Crowds sheltering underneath umbrellas from the midday heat. And myself, Tom Stiles, and Becky Thompson, with the pleasure of joining you wherever you're watching around the world, watching Crash versus Freakshow, Canada versus Singapore in the mixed division.
Yeah, we're off to a good start here, Tom. Singapore scoring that very first point of the game, a break point for them as well. Crash since then has figured out a little bit of their offense, maybe a little bit of nerves sorted out as well, and they've gone on a 3-point run here. Now we're looking at Singapore to respond with an offensive hold, not let this game run away from them.
Well, Singapore had a really close game in their previous matchup against Vanguard from Australia, who were quite fancied in the mixed division. So they definitely have a strong performance in them, but they need to get something working on offense. If the Canadian side Crash manage to get another break, that will be a hard start to come back from. The team from Ontario in black, 3-1 up at the moment. Downfield shots, running and bidding and scraping the bottom of the disc, but cannot do anything to stop the disc landing in the hands of Hillman. And exactly as we were describing, Freakshow needing that hold and getting it with one pass.
And sometimes, Tom, that's the perfect kind of point that you need to encourage your team. We still have control of this game as well. We are right in this. Execute their play, and that looks to me like a set play off the pull as well, and they executed it flawlessly.
Well, that's the sort of set play we used to do indoors, that is. Front of the stack, cuts to the break side, round the back, send the shot up. Patrick Tuck watching it all the way but could do nothing about it, right in the front corner of the end zone. We used to call it the J play.
The J play.
The J play.
I think we can do that.
I know Chevron used to play a similar version, but with a cutter from the back of the stack coming out to that break side, and it was the front of the stack that would then go round the back and score in the far corner. But if you're going to go give the disc to the other team on the brick mark, then you are setting yourself up for some sort of set play, the team with a chance to run something that they're familiar with from a known spot on the field, and that was clearly what Singapore were doing there. Breeze picking up a little bit now, Becky.
Yeah, the breeze is definitely picking up. It looks a little bit like it's coming directly towards us, but I think it's really just swirling around down there, Tom. A little bit gusty as well. It comes and goes, which can make it quite unpredictable when you release a throw. And the wind gusts, it can change your intention of that pass as well quite easily.
We are keeping our eyes on the rain as well, where the forecast for today is mixed, I think is probably the safest way to put it. So eyes on the radar. There are some big blobs of red and yellow drifting around. Just hope none of them come our way.
So we get another chance here to see the offensive line for Crash. Look for them to run a set play of their own, maybe in response as well. It's always nice when you have a perfectly executed play done against you. You want to come out and show, hey, look at us, we can do the same thing as well.
3-2 in this pool game at the start of the World Ultimate Club Championships. Front of the stack goes deep, rear of the stack comes forward and collects. Red Cop. Down the field now to Dupers. Thomas has it. Front of the end zone. Can he jam it in? Red Cop again. Oh, nice work between the two players there. Thomas and Red Cop connecting, getting the disc back. And exactly as Becky was describing, that safe hold to take it to 4-2.
Yeah, definitely a nice way to come out on the offensive line there. Not quite as executed, I think, as they wanted to right at the start. They wanted to hit that first play and the undercut, but also shows their ability to improvise from a set play as well. Okay, it's not on, and they swung around the back, went with plan B.
There's an interesting set of cuts that came out of the stack from the opener. You see a replay of that final cut. Quick set of feet from Neil Thomas. Thomas, the 28-year-old addictions counsellor, would you believe? We asked all the players before this tournament, you know, why did you play with this team? What is it that, because, you know, in a World's Year, a lot of players have got options about which team they play for. And Neil Thomas, quick to respond, Crash has been my ultimate family since I started touring. We got here as a group of people that love having fun playing and ended up getting pretty good at it. I think you do tend to find that in the mixed division, these teams that really bond together like a family.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not quite sure why that is, but there is something special about being on a mixed team and coming together into one big group and finding that chemistry. It often does lead to spending nearly all of your time together, Tom.
Becky Thompson is Communications Director for Ultimate Canada. We're very familiar with all of the Canadian teams out here. Crash no exception to that. Freakshow. Low release. Manages to find the disc down to Tracy. Tracy, oh, it's a beautiful inside break there to Joe Yo. John Yo's cutting around the back again. Is available for the reset, but not required. It goes downfield, but beautifully read and pinched out of the sky by Savage. Savage for Crash. And contact. Savage just stepped on his foot there?
Yeah, I think just looking for that pivot out, and sometimes do make some incidental contact in those situations.
Great use of the hand signals there from both players. Really helps each other. Most of the Singapore team got pretty good English, but hand signals can be read from the other side of the field. Helps everybody, including us in the commentary booth, understand what's going on. Back in now with Savage on the field, and a violation. Just a cut going off a little bit too quick from the middle of the field. Sends it, looking deep, pressure, and the contact between the two players, but he called a foul and he's retracted it because the disc was way out of bounds anyway. You could kind of see that was happening in real time, couldn't you?
Yeah, you could. Good spirit there from Crash captain Dan Balzerson, recognizing that there was no chance of a play on that disc, regardless of any contact there.
So John Yo waves the disc. Nice flick inside to the center of the field, opening up space for Ben. Back to John Yo. Just working it through the men of Freakshow at the moment. And now getting the disc out to this near side with Tracy. Quite a few calls in this game so far. Crash. Not quite sure what the conversation between Tracy and her opposite number is.
I think there may have been a pick call in the middle of the field and just some discussion about where Ramich was to return to after the call. I think Tracy thought she was a little bit further away than maybe she lined up. Unclear where that final position should be.
Sort of minor infraction that shouldn't be taking this long to resolve.
Yeah, I agree, Tom. I think at this point the players need to agree to disagree, settle on a middle ground, and continue play.
Absolutely.
Helpful in this situation, of course, is always to have the game advisors able to offer their own opinion, unable to actually make the final decision. That is still in the hands of the players, but always great to have that extra set of eyes to have the discussions with the players.
Ramich comes in to take the mark eventually. John Yo. And there was a lot of contact between those two players as John Yo was running into the disc. To having a... Is there any way we get a replay of that approach to the disc, that catch?
Yeah, Flynn there just looking to maybe try and get around to the disc. It's very hard to get around another player when they have body position as well. So it's just some contact, I think, into the back of the player there for Freakshow, Joe Yo.
Yeah, just establishing that John Yo got to that disc, but he was calling the foul anyway because he didn't think the amount of contact was appropriate. But the disc into the middle of the field, caught in the breeze and caught in the hands of Crash number 2, Dan Balderson. And advancing now, throws that big fake. Balderson has it in the middle of the field, and another call. It's gone back a pick again. This game breaking up with lots of calls, very little flow.
Yeah, quite a few discussions out on this field right now, Tom. Hopefully all being sorted out to the right resolutions here.
Balderson has it again. Sends the arm, gently floats it into the breeze, a bit of an edge. And the two players before had a bit of a think about making the foul call there, but retracted it in the end. The contact was incidental as they were both looking into the sky for the frisbee.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. Take that 1 or 2 seconds to think about whether or not it was a foul. You often come to a better decision that way, and good to see it retracted as well. Freakshow still looking for an offensive hold here as they go deep.
Deep shot coming downfield, beautifully read all the way into the arms of Cheryl. Cheryl pops back to Ben. John Yo. Ben cutting out. John Yo and Tom Flynn having a little discussion again about the amount of contact the two of them are giving each other. Hope that they can resolve a level that's acceptable to both before too long. Ben. And again, Flynn catching the shoulder of John Yo as he comes to take that mark. Becky,
yeah.
what's your perspective on this from a Canadian point of view? Is what Tom Flynn is doing?
The Canadians often have an issue with this at World Championships events, where you used to being much more physical as well, and at the WIFDIF rules, there's absolutely no contact in this sport.
Well, let's watch for Flynn, who's taking a much wider distance there, giving John Yo a bit more space. The communication between the two of them has been good, and no one's lost their temper yet. Let's hope that can be resolved. A turnover now, and Crash have the disc once more, looking deep. Flynn has gone, the disc is floating. John Yo is going to be underneath it as well. The two of them jostling for position. No mistake from Flynn though. Rises with both hands, brings that one in. And after those two players in particular having a number of discussions about the level of contact, even though there was contact with that final disc, it was caught cleanly by Flynn.
Yeah, well done to Flynn to get into the right body position there and box out his defender to get in front, make it a lot harder for any kind of contact to cause a foul when you get in front of your player there.
We see this deep shot go up again, throws the forehand fake, floats it into space. Flynn getting in front, rising with two hands. Nothing John Yo could do about it. This forehand fake, that's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely what you want. Get your mark to bite, give you the opportunity to line up properly for a full field huck.
It wasn't even a very convincing fake, but it didn't need to be, just to get the Freakshow player out of the way, open up the backhand and send it deep.
Yeah, and that's an important break, I think, here for Crash as well, taking this game to a 3-point lead. Makes Freakshow maybe just a little bit uncomfortable as well, aware that they need to start converting these offensive points and start generating some Ds as well if they want to start to make a little bit of a run, try and get themselves more involved before halftime.
There's been plenty of turnovers in the game so far. Freakshow from Singapore, Crash from Canada is our game here at the Lebanon Sports Complex from the WFDF World Ultimate Club Championships. Big disc from Freakshow going into the end zone. A bid from the Canadian player, but well read and beautifully picked out of the sky by John Sung. Jabs it underneath, and it's another clean hold. The Freakshow deep game is really hard to live with.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible to watch them execute those flawlessly. John Ng there, just no ability to drop that disc despite all the pressure that's being put on him, as you can see there from the Crash defender. Calmly reaches out to grab that disc, keeps his feet in bounds at the same time, and then a great little inside shot across to the middle of the end zone to find Cash for the score.
Yeah, Adam VY doing a great job, but the boxing out here is class. Just slows the run down and then accelerates towards the disc. And the Crash defender would have had to foul him to get to that frisbee, and that's smart play, considering the height difference there.
Absolutely, is knowing your body as well, and having that self-awareness to know where the sideline is to close that down so close to the end zone and keep his feet in bounds too.
Well, we have seen this Freakshow offense click. It really has clicked nicely.
Yeah, they've done a phenomenal job, I think, Tom, on offense, especially when they've had that opportunity to hit those deep strikes. They're really working for them, and they seem to provide their team with a little bit of energy and a little bit of momentum when they work as well.
So Crash coming out on offense. And a zone look from Freakshow this time. The chase is Ishan. And then 3 of the female players in the wall. The big separation deep if they want to use it. Plenty of bodies near the frisbee at the moment. Bit of a dicey disc back, but well collected. Moving it now through Lazenby. This breeze is rising. Those crossfield discs to the far side will be the ones to watch. They may catch. Downfield, pressure, bit of a bump between the 2 bodies. And uncontested foul. Called it on himself, which is really great spirit there from Andy. Oh, sorry, from Hillman.
Yeah, Hillman there, I think just knowing he came into the back and it may have been caught if he hadn't been there.
Mackey, centre of the field, Lazenby again, really anchoring this line against the zone. Thomas, forward. Oh, Lazenby had a couple of bites at that one. Didn't quite connect with the first catch. Flick across the end zone, down the wind, down the field, across into the grateful hands of Chris Mackey. And Crash extend their lead. They have this one at 6-3.
I really like that play as well from Adam Lazenby there to find the vision, hitting the crossfield throw. You can see it sail over the heads of the outstretching arm of the Singapore player. Just getting into the end zone there as well. Well done to Crash, make this game 6-3.
Now Crash extend their lead. Can they do more of that? We'll find out after this.
Catch it early. Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.
Cincinnati is the host city for this year's World Ultimate Club Championships, the WFDF 2018 World Ultimate Club Championships, and we are watching a mixed division pool game between a team from Singapore in the green and a team from Canada in the black. It's Singapore Freakshow versus Canada's Crash. Myself, Tom Stiles, and Becky Thompson in the commentary box for you today. Crash 3 points up. And Freakshow dealing with quite a vicious crosswind now. It's really picked up since we got on air. It was barely any breeze, and Eggert got his hand to that block, but it's been called back by Cash for a foul. It's a contested foul, so it's going to come in on 2. Savage. Good to see the 2 of them agreeing that they weren't going to agree. Nice jab through the space to Andy. Sent that deep shot downfield. The edge held against the wind, and considering the breeze that that disc was travelling through, that's an impressive bit of play. All sorts of things being blown off our production desk up here, but we're just about hanging on. Impressive deep shot across the field there.
That is the one thing I can't keep thinking about enough here, is that Singapore has without a doubt been able to throw these incredible deep shots in this intense wind as well. To throw a throw that narrowly down the sideline and have it sit up perfectly into the end zone in this kind of wind, absolutely an impressive feat by the Singapore Freakshow team. And their offensive line, Tom, is looking really clean. They just are yet to generate a clean defense except for that very first point of the game.
Yes, they are. They're showing signs of real quality. 6-4 is the score here. Scoreboard's wrong. It's 6-4.
be interested to see here, Tom, as well, if Freakshow comes down in another zone look. It was slightly working for them before, although Crash did work it out, but I do like that concept with this much wind to try and generate a turn.
They've come down here in a zone again, and I think we'll see more of this from both teams as the wind builds. It was a very still morning this morning here at the Lebanon Sports Complex. Drops the shoulder and steps in, but doesn't release that disc across to the 3 or 4 male handlers here for Crash. Thomas on this near side, got his hands out. A laser disc across to Emily Ritz. Makes its way safely, and that's really opened up the field for Crash. Still, Freakshow holding their positions, holding their shape. And eventually the turnover comes. Not sure if the Freakshow player in the center of the field, center of the cup, got the hands to the disc. It was Tracy in that 17 shirt for Freakshow, but they have the turnover. Can they put it down the other end of the field and get a score from it? Static in the center of the field, but movement in the backfield. Deep cut goes. Can be pressure underneath this from Crash, but Red beautifully comes across the top, and Fabian takes the grab. Deadly with their deep discs. The Freakshow are back within 1 with a great break against the Canadian team Crash.
That is the first break here for Freakshow as well, Tom. Absolutely the receiver you want in the end zone. Fabian coming down with his 3rd point of this game already, and what an incredible job to get himself in front of the defender, who I thought for sure, Tom, that was going to be Deed.
It looked for all the world like the Crash defender, is it Redcop, Jake Redcop, had got position. Oh, you can see how angry he is with himself, and I think justifiably so. He done everything right to get there, but the disc just hung up in the wind, came up a little shorter than he was positioned, and the high jumping Fabian Ho grabbed the disc out of the sky. Something actually, Chrissy Hunter, I was chatting to her, one of the injured Singapore Freakshow players, was talking about, was that during this tournament, the Freakshow team have really felt the height difference that they have, and there was a very good example of it there, Redcop towering above Fabian Ho, but it didn't seem to matter.
Yeah, Freakshow definitely playing with a lack of fear is the best way to put it for me, Tom. They've come out here and they're not letting any matchups shy them away from going out and playing their game. Fabian especially jumping into all of these intense situations right away and coming down with 3 scores out of the 5 here for Freakshow.
Well, neither team able to establish any sort of momentum or any sort of role here. It's been a mixture of breaks and holds all the way through, and we're at 6-5 now. Rambo down to King, and a turnover. Freakshow maybe going on a 3-point streak if they can this one. Walking slowly to the disc is Andy. Picks up, takes the tap. Cuts coming out to the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Nothing on the reset. The deep cut has gone. It's Cash underneath it. He reads that disc beautifully. High in the sky he goes. Coming back and into the free side of the end zone. What a throwaway that is. Unbelievable work from the whole team to get the disc down there. And then eventually, was it the 53 shirt of Janice? Just throws it with that leading edge, facing the breeze, gets caught on the wind and blows out of bounds, much to Crash's relief, no doubt. The wind coming across the field towards the camera as you're watching. You can see the flags and bunting on the far side of the field getting a real buffeting, and that disc is going to catch and go out of the field. Nothing King could do it apart from grit his teeth in frustration.
Yeah, King really wanting to get there, but another opportunity now for Freakshow to work this disc up the field. They did such a beautiful job on that previous turnover, getting up the field. Cash timing his deep strike perfectly. Unfortunate turn in the red zone, they'll be very happy to have this back in their hands, Tom.
Well, they earned it with that zone the first time around. Interesting, they weren't playing a zone on the second defensive. They were marking up one-on-one, and contact between the two players. King disagreeing about the amount of contact that was taken there.
This is definitely an issue, Tom, that some Canadians have with a little bit of that shoulder-to-shoulder contact while you're running, something that we're very used to in our physical play, but it's not accepted here. It is no contact at all in whiff-diff here. So this could be a good one to use the advisor as well, see if it affected the play in any way here.
I think Brittany Eggert is Brittany the spirit captain for Crash, just strolling over to have a listen, make sure things stay cool. If you've never seen the sport of ultimate frisbee before, you will note there are no referees. The players on the field make all of their own calls, and game advisors are there to offer a perspective if requested to do so. They do not make active calls. Everything is done by the players. And a timeout called on one, and Jeremy Rambo just acknowledging that. And a lot of respect between these two teams. There has been some calls, but there's been conversations, and it's all been very civil so far, Becky.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of discussions. They do seem to be resolving fairly well, which can also be difficult with a language barrier here. Game advisors just coming in to listen, but it does seem like they've had a lot of smiles on their faces still, working it out together. I do also like that timeout call from number 72 there, Andy. Very mature for his, I mean, he's 24. He's a veteran player already. He's played at the WUCC in 2016 with the mixed team in London, played U24s this year. So a very experienced player for such a young age, making a very good decision there, knowing that they could tie this game up with another break, go on a 3-point run.
Well, while they're in the timeout, let's just have a quick look at the rest of their pool, because they've got some really interesting matchups from across the world. Crash are the top seed in the pool, with Vanguard, Seskadiscus, Glasgow, Freakshow from Singapore, and the Geneva Wizards as well. Glasgow not to be counted out. Seskadiscus a really interesting side as well. There are definitely harder pools. We were looking at the Reading Groot wildcard pool. Is a really interesting place to be.
Yeah, Groot with that tough first showcase game, losing on Universe to wildcard, following the next day only by 2, and then their third game also on Universe to Russia.
Oh, did they lose to Rush Mix as well?
Yes, on Universe.
So they'll be 4th place in the pool, having lost 2 games on Universe point. Great pressure here from the Canadian defense, and eventually getting the block. King rises to take the disc away, and a zone we saw from the team in black. Downfield, brilliantly read by Amanda Rambo. Across the field, 2 bids from outstretched Crash players. The disc is beyond them both and into the ground. Freakshow have it back.
Freakshow, again, happy to have another opportunity to tie this game up. Interesting zone set here from Crash, a little bit of a flying V, it almost looks like.
So 2 in the cup, and then the 3 players nearest the disc after that are in a sort of a broad position. They all seem to be looking away from the disc, looking at the threats who are coming in. Not seen anything quite like this in the UK for a while, or ever actually. I think it's, have you seen this before? Is this a Canadian speciality?
I've seen Crash play this before. They really like to have that one person taking away the huck in a kind of singular wall position, while the other person, the other ear of that cup, is solely focused on the reset and taking away that dump every single time.
That seems to work well, except when it gets broken through. And Janice was in acres of space. Oh, I don't know quite why they didn't use her, but she's still coming down the field. This Freakshow team seeming to only go through the men at the moment. Cutting down the line, pressure, but great defensive work there from Crash, smacking that disc into the ground.
Yeah, and I like your point there as well, Tom, that zone is a great set until it is broken. Once broken, Singapore was able to just work it up the field. And now a drop from Froze is going to lead to a doorstep opportunity here for Singapore.
Well, both these teams have fought it out in this point. There's been turnovers aplenty, and Froze just showed the frustration on his face as he saw the disc go to ground. Singapore with a chance of 2 breaks in a row, the wind causing havoc out there. Into space, power position. Crash doing great to take away the options. There must be a mismatch in there. Maybe they've spotted that they aren't throwing to some of their women, the Freakshow team. Eventually they do though, and eventually the disc makes its way through to Jo So with a catch and a point. 3 points on a roll, back at 6 apiece. Freakshow back at the party.
Yeah, and Joanne there just working really hard to get open. She battled through that, and you'll see on this replay as well, she did slip, but immediately got right back up. Good heads up play from her as well to make sure she got the disc back into her hands there.
You see Bailey reacting to the slip as though it was a change of direction. It wasn't, it was just, she just lost her footing. Let's see this again. She loses her footing. Bailey looks like she's going to go back the other way, and then she just stands up and cuts to that open space.
Yeah,
What?
Joanne, a very experienced player as well. She's been playing for Freakshow since 2009, so this really is her team, Tom, and I assume she knows this system and these players very well, and they were able to trust her that even though it slipped, she was still going to get open there.
Tell us a little bit more about Crash and the Canadian Ultimate scene, and how Crash rate as a Canadian mixed side.
Crash have been a dominant team for the last several years up in Canada. They're out of Ontario, which brings the most dominant mixed competition, is all from the Ontario-Quebec region in Canada. They managed to come second at Canadian Nationals, actually losing to Anchor, who is also here in the mixed division. They're constantly cracking at that top 3 at Nationals, Tom, but still working on that gold medal.
Not quite there, but they're thereabouts, but not quite in the top bracket yet. But these discs across the field upwind are proving to be something of a challenge for both teams, and the zone from Freakshow sets that challenge once again. The breeze blowing directly at the camera. It's up and down. At the start of the game, it was almost non-existent. Had to think about laying out for the big bid there. Didn't. Stayed on his feet. Crash knocking at the door now. Ritz with it. Across to Lazenby. Violation. Coming in on 0. Lazenby. Ever present in the backfield. Anchoring this offensive line. Conversation. I didn't actually see what the initial infraction was, Becky, did you?
I think there may have been a contact call on the mark, Tom, and the count may not have been reduced. That is the only thing I can interpret from this discussion that may have caused the violation call here. To clarify, with contact, the person on the mark must return the count to 0. The rest of the field does not actually stop moving play, which is the benefit of the contact rule. When contact occurs on the mark, you do not have to stop the play, it just returns the count to 0.
Sid is the 40 shirt from Freakshow, marking Lazenby. Beautifully controlled disc into this wind. Back across to Redcop. Redcop to Tuck. Tuck with the white headscarf. Oh, that is a beautiful disc right across the field to Redcop, who'd been left all alone, and doesn't matter how much work Ben could put in to get back over there. Redcop was exposed and the disc found him downwind. Nice offensive hold.
Yeah, and that's the second time we've seen Lazenby make this shot from that same corner of the end zone. Interesting to see Freakshow is holding that zone all the way into their own end zone as well, relying on them to make these decisions. But with a thrower like Lazenby on your side, that's hard for that not to be a score every single time, Tom.
Looks at the options close in.
So casual on that throw as well.
That was exactly the word I was going to use.
So casual.
Knew the shot he wanted, and it just took the pace off it because it's downwind coming back across towards the camera there. You could so easily have thrown that out of the side of the field, but didn't. Real maturity and skill, and we're within one of half here. Crash at 7-6 up against Freakshow from Singapore.
Singapore, a credit to them. They've worked their way back into this game from 6-3 down as well. Regardless of the outcome of this point here, Tom, I think they'll be very, very pleased with this first half. And I'm excited to see them bring out another offensive line here. We're starting to see Cash remain on this line, Joanne remain on the offensive line here for Freakshow consistently now.
Now the wind is picking up again.
Absolutely billowing up here in our booth now. You may be able to hear it a little bit through our mics. Wind really starting to push the throws around here, and a good zone set from Crash to take advantage of the wind. Sometimes can be an extra defender here, Tom.
Well, it's certainly blowing quite hard straight at the camera towers. Crash have thrown a zone. More conventional this time, one chase. Oh no, it's still the same. Do they have a name for this zone?
I'm actually not quite sure of the name, but I know that this is the signature defense that Crash loves to play, and it's been extremely successful for them over the last couple of years.
Well, let's call it the Crash defense.
We'll call it the Crash defense.
It's one chase, one just stopping the straight up shot, and then 3 players around the edge. It's creating a lot of traffic in there, and Freakshow working really hard to find a way out of it. They've not seen this sort of defense before, and I guess that's one of the big advantages of designing your own zone. Oh, the disc across the field to Joso was almost perfect, but it's left a big open space and an easy score for Crash. Wasn't quite able to connect with that, and turnover score, and Crash take the half at 8.
And Crash again there. They absolutely love those fast transitions and those quick breaks on a turnover. Dan Balzerson running to the disc immediately has a streaking king to the end zone, taking advantage of the defense not quite being ready yet. Credit to Freakshow. They're going to have to readjust and figure out this zone. I expect Crash is going to keep putting this on through the remainder of this game.
Well, Crash had worked really hard. I think it was King that was in that cup as well, so working. And the players are going to take a short break. We will as well. Back with more analysis from the World Ultimate Club Championships in a moment.
There is a place where we are us at our best.
A place where everyone is welcome,
regardless of age, shape, skin color, or anything else that tries to box people in.
A place where we defy the odds.
And even defy gravity.
a place that knows grit, knows grace, knows bright lights, and knows empty bleachers.
A place where we remember to laugh.
Where we learn to trust.
And eventually, even learn to fly.
A place where character, community, and competition
are all as balanced as a disc in flight.
That place isn't in a stadium or on a field.
That place is in the spirit of our players.
Because we don't just play Ultimate, we live Ultimate.
The WFDF 2018 World Ultimate Club Championships is underway. We're on day 3, and this is the third round game between Crash and Freakshow. Myself, Tom Stiles, and Becky Thompson with you. And Becky, first half of real swings between the two teams. Crash getting off to a poor start with their first point, but then they got back their 0 point and 2 breaks for themselves. You thought that was them. They thought they were off to the races and they're going to accelerate with the game, but it's not been that way.
No, absolutely, Tom. We've seen a game of runs here so far. Crash going on a run of 3, trading for a bit, and then Singapore saying, all right, now it's our turn, taking their own run of 3 to tie it up at 6s. Crash closing out the first half here, but Freakshow dominating in the air with their deep plays in this first half, and we're seeing it now on our screen. Crash have had a very difficult time stopping the Hucks here from Singapore.
Yeah, it's interesting to see this highlight reel. It's highlighting how these two teams have scored. Freakshow have scored with deep shots to their men, and Crash have scored a couple of times with fast breaks. And I think if we were to sort of say that that's the style these two teams are playing, that would be it. We'll have a chat a little bit more about the Freakshow team and their journey across from Singapore to here at the World Ultimate Club Championships. As we see the flags flutter and the breeze is keeping us all cool in the sunshine. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Becky, we said before the game that Freakshow from Singapore had been really working hard on their spirit, and all the calls were taken. There were a lot of them, but they were all very calmly done. Freakshow have actually said in their the information they provided to us before the game that they're an ambassador for spirit, an active advocate for spirit of the game. And when they're engaging in the community within Singapore, they're sort of retraining ultimate advocates within each of the other teams to have a more international perspective. I think spirit of the game in Singapore has been maybe interpreted different from the rest of the world.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that is important to remember with spirit of the game is there are different cultural interpretations of it around the world, and that is an interesting thing to see come together here at the World Ultimate Club Championships. There are always going to be calls, and there were quite a few calls in that first half, but phenomenal to see the teams calmly discuss it, not let that get too far in their heads, not get too intense about it, and I think they came to the right resolutions every single time, Tom.
Yeah, we saw a bit of a battle between John Yeo and was it Tom Flynn from Crash, where during the 1 point they bashed shoulders and rubbed against each other 3 or 4 times, and every time John Yeo just called a foul. I had a quiet conversation about it, and by the end of the point they were having a much more respectful game between each other, and Tom Flynn had understood through that calm dialogue that there needed to be a bit more space there, and John Yeo was just going to keep calling it until he got the space that he felt that the rules gave him.
Yeah, absolutely. Credit to John Yeo for continuing to make that call as well. It's easy to let those little things go if you don't feel like it's affecting your ability to throw the disc, but every single time Flynn came in on the mark, a little bit too tight, making initial contact, just enough to make that an issue there for Yeo as well. So full credit to him keeping his head, staying calm again. The Singapore team is driven by their motto of never enough, and I really think that we're starting to see that as well. After that first half, they climbed back into this game from 6-3 down, Tom, and I think we're going to see quite a competitive second half here.
Well, Freakshow with a couple of points to make up. We'll see if they can do that. They've represented Singapore at the Asian Oceanic Ultimate and Guts Championships in 2015, and they were at the World Ultimate Guts Championships in 2016. They were also at the Asian Oceanic Ultimate Championships 2017 as well, Ultimate Club Championships in 2017. We have a lot of acronyms in our sport, I've noticed. WUCC, AOUCC, AOUGC, WUGC, TS, BT, FS.
It can be quite hard to remember all of them after a while, isn't it?
I'm slowly getting there. I've been playing the sport for 20 years now, and I think I've just about got the hang of it. We do have some new ones to learn as well now, because there's Masters Championships. They've cropped up with their own set of acronyms, and Junior Championships have got their own. So the World Junior Championships taking place later this year, and we've already had the World Under-24 Championships taking place in Perth, Australia in January. We'll see the Australian summer, creating a late winter break for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere travelling down. I did yesterday commentate on a game for one of the players from Pie Wagon. Holly Reeve was playing her second of 3 World Championships this year. She already played at under-23s, under-24s in Perth. She was playing at World Clubs here in Cincinnati, and then she was going to go on to the World Juniors to play with her team from Australia over there. Right now we're back in the second half with Freakshow and Crash. Isham gets the disc back to Suli. Crash's defense working the disc hard for this Freakshow team. Suli's sidearm hops straight up, making herself available. Finding a way through. This is a different type of offense they're using against the Crash zone. They've obviously had a chat about how they're going to play against it. We're calling it the Crash zone. We don't know another way to describe it. Oh, just manages to grab that at the second attempt. It was definitely up. There was a little bit of confusion there.
Little smile there from Balzusin as well to acknowledge, hey, don't listen to me. I didn't get that one right.
Back in now. Disc stays alive. Molly was in a lot of concern about whether the disc had stayed up, but it had. And Crash's defense is really creating problems for Freakshow here. They're not managing to get, there's no players deep at all, and maybe that's the start of their problems. They've not stretched this Crash defense out, allowing Crash to bunch up around the disc. Now they're getting some movement down the field. As soon as they've got that deep threat, it forces Crash to spread the rest of the field out. Well, that was Tom Flynn getting fingertips of the disc, but still made it safely into the hands of Suli. Ishan has had a lot of touches in this point already. He has the disc in his hand now, discussing with Tom Flynn. We're back in. Suli on this near edge. The disc floats into the breeze. Has to go back, has to jump high to collect it, but Ben has it in hand again. Suli exchanging discs with Ben. Back to Suli again. Calm from Freakshow. This is the most possession, and they've looked comfortable with the disc in hand. They didn't look quite this comfortable in the first half, Becky.
Yeah, absolutely. They've started to be a little bit more patient with this zone offense here as well. I think in the first half they were trying to force a few options that they didn't need to throw, and that was causing the turnovers.
Obviously very capable handlers, but the the crash zone. You see how effective it is at pinning them on the sideline. This downwind side nearest the camera, the breeze coming across towards our vantage point here. When the crash defense does pin you on a line. Oh, there's the layout block from Balderson. Saw it coming, put the big arm down, and the number 2 shirt has the disc in hand with a chance to open the second half with a break, but it towers through the sky, spiraling hammer into the end zone, and Balderson with the assist and the turn. Big point.
Got to give full credit to both teams on that point as well, Tom. The Freakshow offense was so patient throughout that entire time, really working it around the cup, trying to stay in the middle of the field to not allow themselves to be trapped on the sideline as well. And in that respect as well, credit to Crash on holding that zone, forcing them into those corners, and finally forcing them to make a decision that allowed Dan Balderson with the gorgeous layout hand block there, and immediately again, he's always looking to shoot to the end zone.
I mean, even in real time, Dan Balderson's layout block there looked like it was in slow motion. You can just imagine him go, no. Big arm down, like a massive roadblock. You are not throwing the disc back across the field.
I think the slow motion no is exactly what went through his head there.
Yeah. Well, you know, he's a man of some gravity. And it's a long way down to the floor from up there, I imagine.
Yes, it is, Tom. Yes, it is.
Let me tell you a little bit more about Balderson. That's his 4th assist of the game so far. Software developer from Waterloo, Ontario. He's 28 years old. And when we asked him what we should look out for him, he said, making things happen when the play seems to be falling apart, which I think that's actually pretty much the role he's been playing there.
Exactly what Balderson accomplishes on this team. Always the glue that is holding this team together when everything else breaks off.
I learned to play at University of Waterloo. And Freakshow are back in possession for their offensive point. They trail by 3. What can they do now? Again, the crash defense. The defensive duty is being handed off to Jeremy Rambo on the chase position. And a stall out called. Very, very close. A smile on the face of Andy as he discusses this. And a contested stall out. He'll come back in on 8. Still in there, Rambo. Just asking the players to come nearer, the Freakshow player, Andy. Hammer across the field, beautifully collected, opens up all the space. You've got to be able to use these overheads, and in this wind, that's quite a throw. A hammer across field, into the wind, but they've done it, and that's created a lot more movement for them. A real loosening of the locks. Now they're back on this near side, on the downwind edge, with Rambo and the force. In fact, 2 of the Amanda and Jeremy Rambo, both in that cup. Down the far side of the field. And they've transitioned to one-on-one, but there was a bit of a mix-up who was marking who, and Huizon was completely unmarked for a second there. As they get nearer the end zone, Crash not wanting to stay with that zone look, marking 1 player each. Into the end zone, and there it goes for Freakshow. Real patience. That's a point of some quality there to work around that intensity of the crash zone and have the tenacity to go right up the far side, managing the transition perfectly and scoring with a male to female pass. Proper mixed ultimate at the highest quality.
Absolutely, and a great little flick fake we see there from Cash as well. Caused his defender to bite in on it, gets the beautiful backhand break throw to make this game 9-7. And Tom, I have to agree with you as well. Well done to the Singapore players there for remaining patient with that zone, really working the disc through the cup. I think that's going to give them some confidence going forward, knowing that they can really break that zone defense down.
Well, it all came from that overhead, real spicy disc. But great cutting there. Is it 32 shirt of Janelle? Eventually got herself free. Back within 2, with 29 minutes left on the clock. It's a game to 15 here in Pool F in the mixed division. Crash will be facing Vanguard in the last game of the day, and that disc has gone deep into the end zone. Spins it to the front line, takes the disc back. Again, we see another zone, this time one chase, 3 in the cup. All women in the cup. Knife over the top. That's the way to play against a zone. Got to get the overheads out. Deep shot goes up. There's going to be a Freakshow player underneath it. He reads it better. And you've got to question whether that was a quality decision there, Becky.
No, I mean, Crash has not been that successful with those deep shots into coverage in this game. They're lucky to get this turnover back, but Freakshow has been coming down with those throws all day.
Second time around, this time it's a much easier pass. Freakshow careless with the disc themselves, and Crash really let off the hook there.
Yeah, Donna Dupuis there just coming in with a second strike opportunity, yards ahead of her, no coverage in that space. That's the kind of throw we want to see Crash make.
And I think as a timeout being called, see that second time around.
Generally, Crash likes to come together as a team in the middle of the field after every single point, right before they get on the line, which can often, unfortunately for us in the booth, look like they're calling a timeout.
This is one of the differences between some of the professional leagues and the WFDF is the amount of time between the points. See Ramich there, the number 1 shirt. Nina Ramich, 28-year-old doctor from Guelph, Ontario. Started playing Ultimates in high school.
Yeah, and her sister is actually out here playing for the Toronto Sixers as well this week, Tom. So we've got a lot of siblings around here with the Canadian teams too.
A new addition to the Crash lineup, only just moved to the area. I'm sure a very welcome addition she is too. Freakshow with another opportunity. From the backfield, playing against this Crash zone. Flynn back in that familiar force position again. And it's Andy with the disc. Gets it to the 20 shirt of Yongda. Andy again. Across the field to John Song. Back to Yongda. Yongda to John Song. They're very close now. Timing of the cuts out of the Freakshow stack was a little bit off, but the break force into the wind, it's risen. Who's waiting at the back of the end zone? And a foul has been called. No, it's been declined, and it's a point that stands. Great work from Freakshow. Good backup from the 19 shirt of Wei Zong.
Yeah, and Tom, I really think that Freakshow have completely figured out this Crash defense now. They're throwing the small little dish passes all the way up through the middle, not allowing themselves to be trapped on the sideline. This is causing some problems for Crash. We heard them call the melt call quite quickly, but Freakshow showing a lot of patience around the edge of the end zone there, bringing this game back within 2 points. Crash, on the other hand, still in control, I think, as well in this game. Up 10-8 here with 24 minutes left to go. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back soon with more action from Cincinnati.
Heat illness strikes kids and adults alike during summer workouts. Watch for muscle cramps, fever, nausea, headache, weakness, or feeling faint. Act fast to get cool and get fluid.
We're back in Lebanon, 40 minutes north of Cincinnati, and we're watching the World Flying Disc Federation 2018 World Ultimate Club Championships. Crash receiving that pull that's gone out of bounds from Freakshow and bringing it to the brick mark. Setting up with 3 handlers back, and straight away an errant throw from Chris Mickey. A turnover, an opportunity for Freakshow to score and get back within 1. Spins across the field to Janelle. There's a cut available on the front corner, but that's a lovely pass into the wind. Bit of edge on it. Kept it under control. Calling the players forward. Oh, downwind, down breeze. The disc pushed to the floor, looking for the deep shot straight away, running it down. Sees Red Cop close to the end zone. Red Cop had a couple of bites at that one. Eventually gets it under control. Looks to the end zone and straight into traffic, straight into Freakshow players. And now the signal for calm. The hand of Sid raised. Let's not hurry this. But if they do not hurry it, Crash may set up that zone that's been so stifling again. Well, they've gone for a one-on-one defense this time. There has been a deep cut go. The 11 shirt of Fabian, he's there again. He's looking which way to send it, flicks it across the other side of the end zone, and again that downfield, downwind pass gets crushed by the breeze. Any sort of top edge shown to the wind is going to happen every time, Becky.
That disc is just being pushed to the floor when you're throwing that direction. There's got to be so much love and spin on this disc, and now we're seeing a huge collision on the near sideline as Red Cop tried to go for that disc, but it looks like no contest, Tom.
Yeah, Fabian raises the hands with open palms, signaling the no contest. Red Cop. See, every time the disc is passed to the far side, it's that little wind, and every time it's coming to this near side, breeze pushing on the top of the disc, pushing it down. Both teams are going to have to adjust to that. The wind is going nowhere right now. Tuck has it downfield. That's a beautiful disc across to Thomas. Space now on the far corner. Oh, had to go to ground, but she did manage to keep it up. Ritz has it now. Back to Thomas. Back to Lazenby. Lazenby through to the end zone, into the camera tower at the back of the field. Oh, the frustration, the body language from Lazenby tells the whole story there. Worked it so hard, almost got the break.
Yeah, and a great shot through some traffic there to a wide open Dupuis there, but just raising that throw a little bit up, maybe catching some wind to carry that one out of bounds. No chance on that disc there for Dupuis.
Sorry, it wasn't a break. That was for their hold, wasn't it? It's been a turnover each in this point. And a timeout called. Freakshow wanting to get some air back into the lungs. It's hot work out here. The sun has taken a break from beating down on us. And the wind is blowing, but it's a very hot, humid, muggy day, Becky.
Yeah, it is. And the wind offering a little bit of a break to us up here in the booth, but we're not the ones running around. So down there, it's still quite a lot of heat rolling around not quite yet with some rain here as well, so the clouds a little bit deceiving for how hot the sun actually is beating through on these players.
And we saw Jake Redderkop there involved. He's had an assist and a score so far. 30-year-old software developer from Winnipeg. Says he loves the culture of this team. We are really intentional about being mentally strong and building each other up. Previous winner of Canadian Nationals in 2014. Timeout is over. We'll see how Singapore set themselves up. They've gone for a stack in the centre of the field. And then you see Crash adjusting their defence. And to see this Crash defence coming in. Straight out of the timeout, it's the offensive players that set themselves first. And then the defence can adapt. So this is one on the mark, one blocking the straight upfield pass, and then the other person closest to the disc is just really looking at stopping the reset, standing behind the force. But when the disc is moving this quickly, as Freakshow are doing now, it's very difficult, Becky, for the Crash defense to stifle anything.
I'm surprised to see a zone right off the bat there. They've really managed to figure out how to get around this Crash zone. The quick movement of the disc, they're getting a little stuck on the sideline now, but now already into the middle of the field, and that is really what's burning this Crash zone.
Well, they were losing the foot race deep against some of these Freakshow cutters. So they've opted in as the breeze has risen. Although the breeze has just dropped off a little bit. It certainly wasn't, it was heavily gusting, and now a conversation about whether that disc was up. The Jumbotron screen away over to our right. The players may use that. We will certainly use our replay monitor here in the booth. Amazing team at Fulcrum Media, bringing you all the action. This is a great replay. We will often see a reenactment, but you were not quite sure what the conversation is down here. You were kind of lying down like a chaise longue, and then the disc came into your chest. I put words in their mouth.
Yeah, I think we can manage that, right? We're qualified.
Don't think we had a good angle on that disc. It's on the far side of the field away from our cameras. Freakshow once more, moving the disc around. Isham in the middle of the field. This Crash zone. And again, the wind just picks up out of nowhere to drop to almost nothing. And then once again, you can probably hear it on our microphones. It's quite a breeze blowing out here at the Lebanon Sports Center. The Ohio breeze blowing across the vast expanse of grass, which is making such a perfect venue for the World Ultimate Club Championships. This is a game of chess at the moment. Freakshow have shown real calmness and patience. The pass count on some of these points has been really huge. Melissa down field side, counting every single pass. We only get the pass counts after the score has gone in. We'll definitely give you news of that. Freakshow aren't really moving the disc from side to side too much, Becky, but I can't see the Crash defense getting completely out of breath. That was a tasty scuba. Now they've got a bit of space. Freakshow on the move. Downfield with the 61 shirt of Ben. Oh, across the disc, and just as it looked so promising, into the wind. Isham not able to collect. It goes to ground and another timeout.
Yeah, unfortunate there from Freakshow. They were really patient. You said they were a little bit static as well there. They had some troubles kind of just working it through, but once they did, they were off to the races. An unfortunate turnover there, taking away from a little bit of what should have been a nice reward for that patience in that zone offense.
They actually looked calmer on the disc when they were under a lot of pressure. As soon as they had that freedom of movement, it was like, well, we've got to make the most of this, and they rushed a few passes and made a mistake. And actually, when they were under real pressure, the stall count was getting high. They showed real composure.
Yeah, absolutely. Just getting a little bit excited maybe that they've had that opportunity to break through that tight zone that Crash is playing. This wind, very unpredictable right now. Moments ago, we were just saying that it had slightly died again, and now here it is picking up. So another chance here for Crash. Gonna start us off after this timeout.
The Crash team from Ontario. They don't have a main coach. They are coached by a squad of the players. Deep shot. And that's a poor choice, poorly executed, I think. The deep cut of Jake Redekop. Redekop would be a pretty devastating deep receiver, but against these some of the Freakshow players here, they have real speed. And now another chance to see this Freakshow zone. You see again at the cup of two, but when you can break to the far side of the field that quickly, again the connection not quite there, almost as though when they have the space, they don't know what to do with it and they make an error. Crash, can they capitalize? It's with the 13 shirt of Thomas. Across to Lazenby. Mickey. Back to Redekop. What a layout, D. That's a high quality block. Got himself horizontal. Sid with the block. And did he make contact with Crash? The number 13, Neil Thomas. We'll see a replay of this. Redekop passes into space. Sid rises. Really hard to see from that angle, just as the disc going up. Maybe get another chance to see this one. What's your view, Becky?
I can't quite tell, to be perfectly honest, from that view either, Tom. But it does look like on the field it has gone as a retracted call. So credit to the Singapore player.
Down into the end zone. Just as we were watching that replay, it was all right. It was a very straightforward pass into the end zone. Well received by Molly Jiang.
That's an absolutely gorgeous throw from the Singapore player to nail it down that narrow sideline to a wide open Molly Jiang in the end zone. Incredible job with the zone coverage as well. She was just completely unmarked downfield.
Well, we said before that the mistake that Freakshow were making is they weren't stretching the field deep. Here they had two players in the end zone. And the disc from Isham is perfection. Right down that line. No way that the Crash defender, the single deep Crash defender was going to get there. Cranks up the arm. Beautiful delivery. Soaring pass. Now they're back within one. And this game, I can't work out which team's going to run away with it. At any point, it looks like Crash are going to get some momentum, and then Freakshow are going to get some momentum. It has been really, really, really close.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a few points where we've really thought that the Crash offense was going to run away with this. They were up 6-3. Singapore brought it back. They were up 9-6 then after half, and now Singapore fighting back to make it 10-9 here. What an incredible job by this Freakshow team, never going away, Tom.
Yeah, 10-9 is the score. VY. Bailey. Rambo. Oh, and this is interesting. We had a conversation between John Yo. Oh, is that John Yo? No, it's not. It's the 20 shirt of Yongda. Jeremy Rambo just saying, look, if you're not going to let us touch you on the shoulder as a run through, we're not going to let you do it to us either. Rambo. Into space. Bailey. More conventional offense from Crash now. Froze. Rambo cutting left and right. Far side of the field. Running it through the men at the moment. Into the end zone. Front of the end zone. Taps back in. Not quite there yet. Eggert. Oh, beautiful flow. What a timing of the cuts there. And Patrick Tuck dishes the dish off.
That was Brad Froze there in the end zone. What an incredible job by Crash to just readjust the first side there. We see Edgett fakes it off, immediately finds Tuck in the middle, who doesn't hesitate to release that out of his hands to Froze. Well done to Crash. Quick response for that offensive hold. Immediately taking it to Singapore to say, no, it's your turn to slow down now. You've had your run. We're going to go on another one now.
Yes, I mean, we talk about Ultimate being a sport of momentum, and that sometimes you can see the momentum building up in a game, and this one's been all over the place.
Absolutely all over the place. A game of runs is the only way I can describe it. We've seen multiple games to 3 as well here. These teams really battling it out, and a very close game, 11-9. Not necessarily the story of this game. I would assume it had been tied the whole time with how it's been going, Tom.
Yeah, the D-line for both teams, well, yeah, they've been broken almost as many times as they've held. I guess one interesting fact is the Crash D-line. When they have got the disc, they have scored. So that's been Freakshow's deadly weapon, is being clean. If they can stay clean, they can score. Float across the field to Tracy. Disc on the floor. Balderson. Flynn. Balderson again. Contact again. Dan Balderson. Polite conversation happening between the two players. Into the end zone, misread, beautifully picked off. Freakshow have it back. 99 shirt of John Yeo. Blast it underneath. Don't want to let that Crash zone set up. Nice movement forward now. John Yeo anchoring this play. Quick 1-2 passes between him and the 70 shirt of Hillman.
It really is awesome, Tom, to see how Freakshow get their flow going all the way up the field. Once they get that all-important break through the cup, once they find that first hole, they have been pretty unstoppable going forward.
The conversation between John Yeo and Flynn. Through the fake, but couldn't expose that shot to the end zone. John Yeo to the middle of the field. Freakshow needing to hold this one. Time running short in this game. Only 5 minutes left before the cap. We're definitely not going to get a game to 15 out of this one. Quick dish pass. Into the end zone. Oh! From all that patience and all that calmness, eventually it's a laser-like disc across the field to Fabian. He's deadly in the end zone again. That's his 3rd point of the game.
Yeah, Fabian just taking control, saying, running into that side of the end zone to the break side. We've seen quite a few goals from both teams in that corner of the end zone. It seems to be working quite well, not allowing the wind to push the disc down. And Freakshow staying within 1 point. Like you said, only about 7 minutes left in this game now. Freakshow really wanting to tie this up, and the way they're playing there with that kind of patience, I can't see how they won't get into it here, Tom.
It seems like they've called a timeout. Now, is this an actual timeout, or is this one of these crash post-point discussions? No, because Freakshow are doing the same as well. So let's assume they are having a timeout.
I hate to break it to you, Tom, but it looks like they are running to the line. Both teams hanging out in groups together, and maybe just a little bit of that team chemistry, that team bonding. It's something they like to do, to come together as one unit between points of the game. So not a timeout here. Only 4 minutes left now, and Crash is only leading by 1 point.
I feel like we need some game advisor help with the timeouts. We're always concentrating on the replay when everyone calls times out, so the only thing we know about it is huddled up players. Tom Stiles and Becky Thompson, the communications director for Ultimate Canada, no less, with me in the commentary box. And Becky, here to watch your countrymen and women represent at the World Ultimate Club Championships. They are in the lead by 1. So on the cap, finish the point, add 1 to the top score, and that'll be the target. We have 3 minutes until the whistle goes. And the pace of this game has been steady. A lot of zone played. A few calls as well to slow things down. Balzerson looking for options. They're all being taken away by some really intense Freakshow defense. Redekop. Balzerson was cutting deep. Now he's coming back underneath. But great pressure from the defender, the 69 shirt of Cash. He's taking Balzerson out of the game. High rising disc, pressure, and he gets the turnover. Jonathan Yeo, Freakshow earning that break. They have the disc in hand, and Balzerson calling the pick. And the disc is going to go back. Real clear communication from Balzerson.
What incredible defense there from Singapore as well. Unfortunate bobble of the disc rising into the air, but so well read to bring that down and immediately start their transition as well.
It was quick. Can they turn the possession into a point? The Crash defense not letting them have too much space themselves. Andy with the disc. Back to Jonathan Yeo. Low disc pressure from Redekop. And a call on the play, holding his foot. Just caught each other's feet as they're running in.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of contact through the
Uncontested.
back there.
Yeah, Jake Redekop uncontesting that. Coming back in again. Cash with the disc. A violation. Starting off too early. Well, these teams have worked everything out calmly. It's been a lot of calls in the game, but everything's been very civilized. Andy for Freakshow. Across to John Yeo. Suli cutting. Now she has the disc. Back to Andy. Into the end zone. They're back together. 11 each. We've got 30 seconds left on the clock.
What an incredible point there from Singapore to get that D and then to remain patient, working it through, not forcing that first option. There was a few cuts that, you know, could have been squeezed into small spaces there for Freakshow, waiting until they had a wide open player in John Yeo, streaking up that far sideline for the score to tie this at 11s.
I could watch that that final pass from Andy all day. Andy Cho low to the ground. Beautiful rising disc out of his hands. It's the 24-year-old right-hander. Played at Singapore Polytechnic. He was on the mixed team in 2016. And we asked him who his sporting hero was, and he said, and enjoy this, it's Dylan Freakshow. I think Dylan's probably one of my sporting heroes as well.
I mean, how can you not like Dylan?
I haven't seen him. Anyway, we are back in this game. Crash from Canada in the black. And the time is up. Did you hear the whistle go there, Becky? I'm assuming the whistle has gone. Crash in the backfield. Freakshow with their own zone. Balzerson. Oh, bobble over the top. Pressure. Oh, beautifully caught up. King making the initial mistake, but making up for it. There goes the whistle. Disc in the hand of King again, having had to do all the work to keep the disc alive. One more time for King. Freakshow Cup is looking a little tired. The space is opening up for Crash. Back to Mickey. Across to Rambo. McKee again. Beautiful play from Crash into the front corner. Balzerson scoring it, and there we're within one.
So we can confirm now that it will be a game 2-13. The whistle did go off during that point, so we'll add one to the highest score, which is now 12. Crash on game point. Singapore with a chance on offense now to remain in this game, tie it up to take it to a universe point.
Oh, what an exciting game. It really hasn't gone the way of the form book, gone the way of the playbook. Freakshow coming into this one with 2 losses. Crash coming into it with 2 wins. Freakshow did push Vanguard very close, but they've already got 2 wins as well. We are expecting Crash to be dominant, but it's not been the way. Really struggling to contain the Freakshow deep shots, and the wind has caused more than its fair share of changes of possession as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen the wind again, once again settling a little bit during this point. We're nearing the last point or 2-3 points of this game as well. 2 points, possibly. We hope. We always cheer for a close game, right?
That's what I live for, Becky. It's what I live for.
It's a commentator's dream.
Yeah, we can make it. We can make. It's easier to make great coverage from a great game, and that's exactly what these 2 teams out here have given us. Real excitement. Savage sends the disc downfield for Freakshow to collect. Landing right on the sideline. He has to bring it in, and we see the Crash zone set up again. A cup of 2. The players nearest to the disc after that looking more, really had to reach high into the sky. They're in their own end zone. We're in Callahan territory right here. And they'll know that. Both teams will know that. Now making their way out. Their calm offense. They have shown they've got real patience. Going to need to use the reset. Instead, they use the quick jab through. Nice work. 1-2, 1-2. Blasting through the gaps that are available to Cash. Cash sends it into the end zone, but that poach off D from Savage.
Just a little bit too high on that throw there. A wide open receiver, but that had to be a perfect low throw. Now it's got him back by the Singapore defense.
Yeah, Charity was the target in the end zone, but can't be more than 5'2". And to see the monster that is Savage come bounding across, take it out of the sky ahead of her. Into the end zone now, and there he is again. Savage with 2 Ds to take away the point from Freakshow, prevent them from tying it up at 12 each. But a mistake from Rambo. This time he gathers. Downfield to Savage. Oh, it was almost like he couldn't do too many great things in 1 point. Double defense in the end zone.
Double Ds, and then 2 bobbles there from Crash. One that Rambo managed to catch, but the second one, unable Savage to hang on to it. Freakshow, a great timeout call here. They've got to tie this up to bring it to Universe.
Well, they managed to get themselves out of this top corner where they were on the windward side of the field, nearest the camera, and in facing against that crash zone, which has been so effective. An unconventional zone. I'm sure those of you who's watching this will be able to figure out ways of finding ways around that zone. It's quite unconventional, and Freakshow have had some success of working it through the gaps. And once they are through that initial cup of 5, they are able to make some quick movement.
Yeah, they've had no problems working it up the field once they get through that initial cup, but that initial cup really is faltering them back in their own third a lot of the time.
Do you think the wind, Becky, is an essential ingredient in that zone? Do you think that zone works when there's no wind?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that zone works, especially with the wind, to be clear, because when the wind drops down, it opens up that option for those far side hammers and the ability to swing it far away from that tight little cup that is always on you. So with the wind, it's very hard to get it into those big far side swings and over the top throws.
Freakshow have thrown a couple of overheads to break out, but more often than not, they've just exposed the gaps and managed to thread a disc through the gaps. Back in now on field with Andy across to the 28 shirt of Sue Lee. Back to Andy, 2 of them connecting well, but a lot more field to cover now. Cash has it. The defense from the Canadian women has really stifled the Freakshow female players. Zai Zhong out to Cash. Freakshow getting closer and closer, but can they score it? Flynn standing like a wall in the way, apologizes and moves off. Cash. Freakshow still have it. Cuts coming. Sue Lee. Not able to get free. Sue Lee is available now. Pivots into the end zone. The female connection works finally to get Freakshow tied up at 12 each. We're at Universe point. Becky Thompson, what a game we have seen here today. Can you call it from here?
Absolutely not, Tom. We've seen this disc go either way for both of these teams. We've seen them execute perfect offenses and also make some critical errors at critical moments of this game. It's been a game of runs. Crash up 6-3 and then 9-6. Freakshow never win away, and that goes with their team motto of never enough, and we're seeing that right here today with a Universe point game tied at 12s.
Well, it's been really quite an unusual and exceptional game to watch. I've admired the way that Freakshow have stuck into this game. They've been given opportunities by Crash, but they've capitalized where they can. I think Crash will look back at the video of this game and wonder how they kept letting Freakshow back in, but you've got to admire the team in green. They've never let themselves, never let their heads drop. They've kept plugging away, kept taking the opportunities that Crash keep giving them.
Yeah, and right now the advantage, I'd say almost a little bit more arguably with Freakshow. They have a bit of momentum, but also a little bit of downwind from where the flags are going. That could really be an advantage here on this defensive point.
That's going to take away the advantage of any deep throws. Racing disc coming down into the receiver's hand. Thomas and Balzerson getting us underway. And now Froze. Downfield pressure. Oh, second time of asking. Manages to keep it in that black shirt hands. Across to Tuck. Balzerson again. Little float into space to Froze. Looking to win this game. Huge bid. Froze gets the disc back. Big bid from Ben Ho.
Uncontested strip there.
This Pool F matchup could be a critical result for both of these teams. Both teams wanting to finish in the top 4, which allows them the top 3 automatic qualification into the bracket. If you're in 4th or 5th, you play off against a 4th or a 5th from another pool. Bids coming in. Crash still with it, looking to take this game into the end zone. Jumps in the front corner, and Crash have taken it despite a valiant effort from Freakshow from Singapore. It's the Canadians with the win. The Canadians, their 3rd win of the tournament, their unblemished record goes on. And Freakshow, for all of their hard work, it's heartache at the end. They've taken 3 defeats from their first 3 games, and they were in for a tough tournament and the rest of the World Ultimate Club Championships. Becky Thompson, what a game we've witnessed here.
What an incredible game, and you see this final piece of play here as well. And Ishan with that big bid, he looked absolutely defeated after this goal was scored. He put everything in to this moment, trying to get that last bid. Crumples to the ground, but what a great job from Crash. A game of runs that was absolutely impossible to predict at the end, Tom.
It could have gone anyway. I think, yeah, Crash will be frustrated that they gave Freakshow so many opportunities to come back into it. But I've got a lot of admiration for the way the Freakshow team have held themselves and really had a competitive game against a top quality opposition. Thank you very much for watching, Tom Stiles and Becky Thompson from the Cincinnati fields at the Lebanon Sports Center, the World Ultimate Club Championships. From our production team and both of us, wish you a very good day, and do join us for more Ultimate action soon.